Hi guys, welcome to the Eliot estate. I am here on the corner of our house because I am making a really gorgeous, kind of shoddy DIY concrete like pedestal situation for our waterfall. So here on the corner of the house, like I showed you guys earlier this spring, I had made a little dry waterfall situation. Obviously isn't complete, but up here where the water comes out and originates, I am building this like 15 by 15 little pedestal. So it's just gonna, it looks like kind of like, my whole inspiration for it was the old like sandstone, like French inspired, European inspired like fountains. And so I'm like, how do I get this fountain to make it look like this on a budget, you know? So I know what I want it to look like. It was just a matter of like, how the heck do I construct this on a budget and without using this big old hunk of stone? So I came up with this design, and it's kind of all using materials that I had on hand, and I'm gonna test it out and see how it works. If it holds up for, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, I'd be happy until I find, you know, maybe something later on down the road that works better. But basically I needed this like shell so that my piping could run up underneath of it and then spew out, and then it pulls right here in this little stone area, overflows, and then goes down the rocks into a holding tank, and then it just keeps recycling the water. I do have a climbing rose here, and I have a little trellis situation that I want to install as well, so that way it has something more to go up, and maybe it can hide more of this infrastructure stuff. So I want to install that for the final reveal, but I want to take you around back home and show you of our home and show you what I have rolling, and we're going to finish it out together, and hopefully we have everything to make my dreams kind of come true with this pedestal fountain, pedestal basin. I don't even know what it is. So maybe it would have been better in the long run to actually find a big hunk of like limestone and then drill all the way through it. And I don't know. I don't know what that consists of or how those work. But what I did want to do was just try to build one using leftover materials. And I am by no means a great carpenter. It's funny, Taylor and I joke very often that I'm a 20-foot carpenter. What that means is when you're standing 20 feet away, it looks perfect. You have really nice carpenters, and they're like 1 to 2 foot carpenters, where if you're standing 1 to 2 feet away, then they look dynamite. Not so much. So I learned a lot with this project, but I'm really excited because I think it's gonna work with what I have rolling. So here's my situation. This is my pedestal that I came up with. This is hardy board that you would use like underneath tile, and my thinking was if I use the hardy board, that it will probably hold up more better than like using like plywood or something. So this is roughly like 15.5 by 15.5 inches wide and deep across, whatever. And I found this awesome plaster medallion situation at a flea market. And I thought it would be the perfect like architectural like interest piece to hang here off of this pedestal. And then we'll have a spigot coming out of this hole, and basically my hose will come up underneath of that pedestal, and then go through that little copper piece and then spew out of this medallion. I did come y'all can't laugh at this because it's horrible. I Jimmy rigged this rooftop to sit on top, and if you follow me on Instagram on Cottonwood Shanty, you know that I was joking that it looks like a tiki hut. Sorry, I'm getting you guys all skewed. It looked like a tiki hut because I didn't have this like thick trimming down here, and so whenever I had this wood piece on top, oh my gosh, it looked so shoddy. I mean, it looks shoddy now, but it looks a lot better. So I beefed it up with this trim that I 45 degree cutted, 45'd, and it's not looking the best either. But this is my rendition before it gets concreted. Now, I'm a big fan of Surecrete, which is like a micro top concrete finish. I've used it on our fireplace, I've used it on our range hood, and basically you just mix up this powder concrete mixture, which I'll show you here in a second, and you make it like a pancake to, I don't know, a nice consistency to where you want to smear it around. So you mix it up, smear it on, and this whole pedestal is going to get covered in Surecrete. So it's going to look consistent, obviously, because I have a plywood and then that hardy board. So I think it'll hold up, and obviously it's going to be outside, and so I've been working through this in my head, like, is it going to be waterproof, etc. I don't need it to be like dynamite. Like I said, if I can get 3 to 5 years out of this would be great. But the concrete top coating should be finished like concrete, obviously. And then I'm thinking that I can use a matte poly and just put on like 2 to 3 coats. I'll even put some of the matte poly up underneath of the base, like, I don't know, 6 to 8 inches, because obviously this is going to be sitting in, in the dirt. So if I can kind of just encompass, anyway, if I can put that matte poly all around and cover that Surecrete all around, I think it will be okay. So I think I have everything. The only thing I need to do is drill a hole, and I marked it already. I need to drill a hole so that way my copper pipe right there can come through, and then we'll test it out. Safety first. All right. Now, see if I did this right. Oh, yes. Originally, I had picked up this brass quail faucet for another project, and I really wanted to use it as like the spigot. And then whenever I picked up this medallion and I held up the quail, I felt like it was just too much going on. So I opted to go for the copper piping out of there, and I think it'll be really pretty whenever it patinas and such, you know, through the weather and such. So we'll have to figure out like what our depth is. This is, I believe, 3/4 inch copper piping. We had some just chilling around, and my 1/2 inch tubing is just gonna sit up in there. I think we'll see how it works out. Now my top, this is just a 6x6 porch post cap that you put on 6x6 post. And like I said, I jimmy rigged up this roof line, so don't judge me, because I know it's absolutely horrible, but we'll fill this all in with the Surecrete, and you won't even be able to tell. I think I'm going to leave this top loose to where it's not attached to the base, because I'm scared that I'm going to have to like access in there, and I don't want to have to like move this whole pedestal anytime I need to get that 1/2 inch piping for the fountain or for the waterfall out of there. So I think I'm going to just attach this 6x6 post cap onto my roof line. But basically I think we're ready to Surecrete this all up. And like I said, that Surecrete is going to cover all of the imperfections. I might try and screw down this medallion from the back end. Just put a couple screws in there so it's not going anywhere, because right now it's just hanging off there. But that Surecrete is going to cover all of these nasty imperfections. And then we can get it in place, and I think it'll be perfect. Here is the Surecrete bag. Again, just a powder, and I'm going to mix up, I don't know, just like maybe like 3 to 4 cups worth of powder, and then you just add water slowly while mixing it. And like I said, you just want it to be like a pancake like mixture. And what I'm gonna do is I need to go get it. I have a big wide paintbrush, and I think I'm gonna just like make up just a side cup of like more of a paint like mixture of the Surecrete, and I'm going to just take that brush and I'm just going to like fluff it in there. I'll show you here in a second. That way it just covers this, and that way this looks the same as what the whole base is going to be looking like. And then I will use these plastic spatulas, muddy knives or whatever they're called, and I like using the plastic ones because they bend, but I'm just going to smear on the pancake like thicker mixture, and I'm going to spread that all around the basin. But I'll use a thinner coat obviously on this medallion and maybe this trim work, so that way it gets in all the grooves and it just applies better. And then over here on the roof line, I'm going to use the thicker stuff, and I'm going to try and fill in these gaps. Oh my gosh, I knew it was gonna be good, but it looks so good, so good. So the thing I love, like every time I use this stuff, I am reminded of like how much I love it. What I love is that it covers literally all imperfections. So I go right over screw nails. This I can come in and like fill in just like a thicker chunk, and cleans up the edge. It just hides all the imperfections. When I started to put it on the medallion, I mean, I guess now that it's starting to dry, you can see more of a contrast of the color. Since the medallion was like already a creamy white, when I applied the Surecrete, there wasn't much of a difference. I mean, obviously now that it's drying, you can kind of see just a little bit, but I just kind of put it on a little sloppy, and obviously where the dirt is in these little crevices is where I didn't hit it with the Surecrete, but I think it'll be just fine. But it looks so good. You can kind of see just a little bit of texture, and I'm hoping, you know, obviously the longer that it's out, the more it's going to like collect little dirt spots like that. I love it. The more patina and more weathered it looks, the more it's going to look old and right in place. And then up here, I think I'm going to have to do a couple more coats, because the more I like tried to go over it, the more it was just smearing. So I think I'm going to have to let this dry and then do like a second coat on that top trimming piece. Look at how cool this is going to be. That copper, it's going to look so good. Well, it's clearly a new day, but I got the first coat of the Surecrete on. In some of the spots I did go through and add a second layer, like where the screw holes and stuff were, but I just popped the copper little tubing in there, and oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So you can see that I did the lid. I just went right over that, I think it was like 1/4 inch or so plywood. And it looks good. There's a couple, like I want to fill in this hole, and you can see that it's starting to crack, like obviously where it wasn't like super secure. And I'm fully expecting that, honestly. I don't mind it too much. So just knowing how it's going to be, just kind of expect that, I guess. But this little post top, I did not end up like screwing into it or anything. I just put a big glob of that Surecrete and then I smooshed it in and I let it dry and it's like attached. So what I'm doing now is going through with just like a fine sanding paper, and I'm just sanding it down just ever so slightly just to get rid of like any loose chunks. And I'm going to be going through and just doing like little touch-up work right in here where I missed or where it didn't cover enough. And I'm just gonna finish it out that way. I might try and like smush some down in here in this where the medallion is touching, so that way it looks more built in. But oh my gosh, it looks so good. And then once this is dry, I'm gonna go over it with a matte poly. This is what I'm gonna use, and I'm gonna do probably like 2 or 3 coats of that on top of this to kind of seal it. I also think I mentioned, maybe I didn't, but I want to bring the Surecrete in and do like maybe up to the 2x4. And then I also want to seal like the base of this with that poly, because obviously this is what's going to be touching the ground. And so my thought process is if I can seal it just a little bit up, it will have a little bit more protection, so that way it doesn't like start to crumble after a year or two. I don't know, it still might crumble after a year or two. I don't really know what to expect. In my head, I think that it kind of helps if I do the matte poly and some of that Surecrete up just to help that base, so it's not sitting directly on the ground with this hardy board. While my final coat of Surecrete is drying, I'm going to put up this little trellis situation, I guess, is that what you call it? For the Bathsheba David Austin rose. And I was just looking, look at how beautiful. Isn't that divine? It is so pretty. Ooh, there's another one back there too. So I think I'm going to stake that in. I'm gonna put, maybe I'll put it over here to kind of block this electric outlet. And while I'm at it, I'm gonna go get the supplies. I'm just gonna finish that. I don't think it's hooked up to the panel or anything. But I'm going to install that electrical outlet, so that's finished. And then I'm gonna try and climb up and get the Pella stuff out of the window as well. So I think that little trellis little situation will be nice for this climber. And then once the little fountain pedestal is dry, I'm going to start in on clear coating it. So I would have used a black tote, that way it blends in to, this is my holding tank by the way, but I was just using a tote that I had on hand that I didn't care about. So I just ended up going around the rim with this metallic, I don't know, it's like a bronzy brown color from Rust-Oleum, just to kind of help blend it. I did get the trellis all tacked up. Ended up falling into the hydrangea and getting cut on the rose. So that gave me a nice little chuckle. But I'm gonna go start sealing the pedestal, and then what I'm gonna do is, since our beds are rock, I'm just gonna end up laying the pump tube just underneath of the rock. Well, I have some troubleshooting to do because look at it. It like spits like 2 feet out from the basin. Which isn't major, but I don't know. It's really cool though. I initially had it right here, and then of course it was like overshooting. And I thought I could turn my pump down so it didn't pump as hard, but I don't think it has multiple settings like my other ones for my waterfall, or for my little fountain. So, I don't know, but oh my gosh, it's so pretty next to those roses. Oh, it's so good. So I'm just gonna mess around and see if I can kind of get it to not be so projectile. I don't know, it's so cool though. I'll show you the inside real quick. So you can see my hose coming up, and then I just have like, I don't know, like a 10-inch copper pipe that runs through, and this is 1/2 inch, like a 1/2 inch poly tubing. And then I have my tubing where it snakes down and kind of goes back into the basin. All right, I gotta think this through. All right, here she is. I did some little tweaking. I ended up sitting it back further so it's like practically touching the house. And then I had to add in more stones like underneath. And then to remedy like the splattering and stuff, I ended up digging like a well so that it didn't splatter and hit the rocks and like just splatter out. So there's a little bit of a well. I'm curious to see how it'll hold up, because I know that our ducks will get in here and probably move the rocks around just a smidge so they can take a bath and whatever. But oh my gosh, guys, I cannot get over it. It looks so pretty, and it's so much louder. Josie, what do you think? Yeah, stay out of it. No, 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 no. It's so much louder because obviously of the depth. Jules, really crazy. So much louder because of the depth away and where it's hitting and stuff. It's kind of nice because before it was just like I could barely hear it. So this is how it looks up here, and like I said, the poly tubing just comes up underneath and then comes up to that copper tubing. And then I have a pond liner that like is tiered and it just runs over rocks, and I filled it in with like, there's Waterfall foam. It's like a spray foam that you can spray, and it just like makes everything watertight. And then everything runs down to my little tub, which looks so much better now that I painted this lip. So what I have is this this wire, and then I have an old metal screen over top of it, so like the chickens threw out all of this dirt and stuff, but so that way it catches all of the debris before it goes into the holding tank. So I just pick this whole shenanigans up, and I just put it over top of there, and then I can layer rocks around and just kind of make it disappear. I would really like to find more of a flat rock to finish off this edge, because just to kind of keep the rocks held up, kind of like what I did right in here. Actually, this was a better example. There's like a more solid flat rock, and the water just runs over the edges. So I would really like to cap off where it ends up going into the tub, and then that screen can kind of just sit beneath of it. I'll handle that. I still need to find a rock, so I'm gonna just finish that later. But I absolutely love how this pedestal turned out, and I love how this weeping cherry, I need to prune it just a smidge, but it almost like creates this like little magical moment of you don't know where the water's coming from, and then you go around the corner and you see it. But I cannot wait until the sun drops just a little bit lower, and it creates this like magical golden light, and I just know it's going to be beautiful. So coming back up here just to wrap up this project, the only thing that I need to do is I want to caulk this seam right in here. So this is my lid, and I wanted this to be accessible, that way I could, you know, access the tubing if I needed to later on, if I need to clean the filter or whatever it is. So I wanted this to be removable. But what I'd like to do is, because you can distinctly see this line. I want to come in here with caulk and then maybe just like slice it very thinly. I don't know if that's gonna work. I'll do that later. Not too concerned about it right now, but ooh. And then I want to find stepping stones because I beef it about every single time coming in here, and we have a hose access up here. I want to find some stepping stones to be able to step on and not like feel like I'm going to twist my ankle. So besides those little detail things, and then obviously finishing out that bottom rock, I think this waterfall project that has been almost 2 years in the making is almost done. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, I have no idea how long this is going to last, and I did end up putting almost 2 coats of the matte poly onto the surrounding. I didn't end up getting into the details of the medallion because I knew that was plaster. I wasn't too concerned, so I just did around the edges really well. I was trying to think of where water would collect and trying to like penetrate. So we'll see in a couple years how it holds up. I'm sure I'll give an update along the way, but I'm really, really happy that I went the route of the copper tubing instead of the brass quail, and I'm happy with how the lid and everything turned out because that was the only thing that was pretty janky. And you know, at first I thought this was too far away. I really do like the sound of it, so much louder, and I'm just really excited to see the roses fill in, and it's just so beautiful. So I hope those whole steps, I know, like I said in the beginning, I was no carpenter. I threw it together, but that Surecrete really covers all the imperfections, and you can just layer it on and cover all of the holes or janky little pieces. Another great Surecrete project. Of course, I'm by the bees because I'm here by the catmint. Another great Surecrete project done. I'm in love with it. I'm sure I'll have a blog post over on cottonwoodshanty.com. But thank you guys for following along on this project, couple day project, couple week project. I am just in love with it, and I will be showing you guys some magical scenes that will be happening here here in an hour or so when that sun drops down. So anyway, thank you guys for visiting the Eliot estate. I hope you were super inspired.